All right, there's the next episode of True Wrestling Fan Discussions, continuing our retro pay-per-view review series. This is going to be Royal Rumble 1992. I'm your host, Mike.
I'm Frank. Man, let's get into this. This is the greatest Royal Rumble they ever had.
We're live in the same place for the first time.
Exactly. We tried something new this time.
So let's get into it.
Man, the only thing that this Rumble was missing seriously was the Ultimate Warrior. I'm going to just say that right now. You had the greatest roster established for this Rumble with a couple of replacements. I'll get into those in a minute. But the only thing that was lacking was the Warrior.
Yeah, or even Rude for that matter, but definitely Warrior. But imagine if Rude was there too, because Rude had just left. Well, actually, Rude was gone for a while. I should say.
But still, even he would have brought a little bit more intensity to it, because we've always talked about how he was a main eventer, and Hogan didn't see that, and Rude decided to leave, and Rude established himself in WCW.
Right.
So, and then of course Rude got screwed when Hogan got back there. But
what else is new?
In any event, January 19th, 1992, from Albany, New York, the Knickerbocker Arena, roughly 17,000 on hand for this one. And so let's jump into it. The opening match was the New Foundation. Yes, I said new. Anything new in 2000 don't work.
2000, yeah, it's not good.
Owen Hart and Jim the Anvil Neidhart, or the taxi cab drivers, as I like to call them, versus the Orient Express of Tanaka and Kato. Now, this match was not bad. It was a good opening. Not as good as the year before with the Rockers and the Orient Express. But this was what Vince was trying something new, with Brett now being on a singles push, and Owen coming up in the WWE, and Neidhart pretty much there with nothing to do. So the New Foundation concept, I thought they could have come up with a better name. Hell, I even thought they could have used the Hart Foundation name, to be honest.
They might as well have.
Yeah, because eventually they do it anyway later on. This match was actually pretty good. Owen showing his skills in the ring with the aerial stuff, Anvil with the brute force, Fuji, down there ringside cheating as always with the cane, and of course Tanaka and Kato. But this time they looked like they were heading for the airport right as soon as this match was done. They didn't want to be there. The wrestling attire they had on was just like, we just put our sweats on and came out. Like, we don't even care. And that's unfortunate, because they were an underrated tag team.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Hogan. Oh yeah, Hogan. Okay, I'm not there yet. Owen win. They win with what was called the rocket launcher off the top rope, pinning Tanaka, and the New Foundation gets their one and only pay-per-view victory. But I think this tag team was pretty much done before even Mania.
Yeah, it was pretty much over,
unfortunately. Now, our next match on the card... Well, before we jump into the next match, they gave us the highlights of the house show 48 hours prior, which was Bret the Hitman Hart defending the Intercontinental title against the Mountie with 103 or 104. I don't remember.
Yeah, whatever it was.
Against Doctor's orders, he defended the title against the Mountie, and he lost the title. And as the Mountie was continuing the aftermath after winning the Intercontinental title, Roddy Piper came out to save him. So Jack Tunney issued that replacing Bret Hart in this match would be Roddy Piper as the number one contender, which pissed the Mountie off, because he's like, I'd like to know where you come off making him the number one contender. Mm-hmm. But in any event, this is the match we've got, and Piper is way excited. Mountie, of course, is like, I'm going to take your manhood, I'm going to take your integrity. Yep. Piper gave one of the best interviews he's ever given before this match. He goes, I ain't got no damn integrity. And he goes, you're going to take my manhood. I come here to fight. I don't know what you come here to do.
That was a great promo.
He goes, I've come here to win 2 belts. I can't do that till I win the first. Which is exactly what he did. In under, it was about a 5.5 minute match. This was almost a squash.
Yeah, it wasn't that long. The match was I thought it was decent for what it was, though.
Well, considering the fact it was the Mountie.
Yeah.
I mean,
the Mountie was decent. He was decent. He wasn't terrible.
Do I think the match would have been longer with Bret in the match? Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it would have been a 15-minute match with Bret facing him, but Bret probably coming out winning in the match. Yeah. And Piper not even being on the card at all.
It was just good to see Piper get a shot and actually get a belt.
He looked the best in the first half of 92, man.
Definitely, yep, I agree.
Even going into Mania with Bret, oh my God. This was, and then it was over for him after that. I was like, that's it. He wasn't wrestling for them anymore. But a lot of people left in 1992, unfortunately. So Piper gets the sleeper hold on the Mountie, declared the victory. Jimmy Hart tries to come in with the cattle prod, classic stuff there, and then he winds up using it on the Mountie himself, get a little taste of his own medicine there. So now Roddy Piper's the Intercontinental Champion for the very first time.
Yep. And he has a chance to get the WWF title at the end of the night.
Yes, he does. Now, our next match, I don't know. I wanted to fall asleep on it big time. It was the Bushwackers versus the Beverly Brothers.
Yeah, this was...
with Jameson at ringside for the Bushwackers, and, of course, the Genius in the Bo and Blake's corner. Now, this had stemmed from a bunch of Superstars episodes where Jameson was at ringside as a fan and being picked on by the Beverlys and Genius, mainly the Genius. And so the Bushwhackers took him as their temporary manager pretty much just for this night. And, I mean, my God, they couldn't come up with anything worse than this. I mean, he's eating his tie, he's got paper clips on his glasses, his duct tape on his shoe. Perfect to be in the Bushwhackers' corner.
It was bad. It was just a stinker all around. It was a complete.
Unfortunately, with this pay-per-view, that we actually had one, and the Beverlys actually came away with the victory. Double axe handle. They pinned the Bushwhackers. They get the victory. But the funny thing was the aftermath was the Bushwhackers were holding the Genius and having Jameson's trying to make that fist, and he's going to hit him, and he hits him in the shin.
Yeah.
Oh my God! Fire Jameson.
Want it to be over. Jesus Christ.
We'll put him in the Hall of Fame. So, our last contest before we got to the Rumble was for the WWE Tag Team Championships, the Legion of Doom defending against the Natural Disasters. This was actually a good feud. I liked, stemming back in from '91 from the Survivor Series. The matchup itself was pretty good. Hawk and Animal obviously not backing down from Earthquake and Typhoon. The only way I just didn't like the outcome. It ended by count out. The Disasters win, but they don't win the titles.
Yeah, it was anticlimactic. I mean, I wanted an official, like
let them. I mean, obviously you're not going to get them up in the Doomsday Device. There's no way that's happening.
Would try it at least. I don't think he could have, but it would have been to see him try to get up Earthquake or Typhoon would have been something.
Either that or drop the tag titles to the Natural Disasters. I mean, we don't know what's coming the following month with DiBiase and IRS. And the problems the Legion of Doom would have over the course of the year, but I mean, if the Disasters are going to win, then let it not even clean. They could have been a dirty victory for them, but at least then if they're going to get the victory, put the belts on them at this point.
I agree.
You're going to do it anyway.
You might as well have.
Exactly. So, but I mean, the feud was pretty good between the four of them, so it was good chemistry in the ring. So now we get to the Royal Rumble
for the vacant WWF title. So, a little bit of this was a long backstory. I mean,
from Survivor Series.
Yeah, I mean, even if you think about it, even before that, if you think about SummerSlam,
yes,
when Bobby Heenan was looking for Hulk Hogan because he was going to announce the real world champion Ric Flair was showing up.
He slammed the door in his face.
So we all know that Flair showed up with the NWA big gold belt for a while. Then they ended up censoring it,
which made no sense considering that it was Ric Flair bought that belt.
Well,
he had to, they all had to pay in for it, and
I don't know if they ended up filing a lawsuit. I don't remember.
I thought they did.
I just remember he ended up getting the money back because he had a deposit. They ended up giving him back the money. Then he gave the belt back, and then that was done and over with. But it started really then, and it just that was the fantasy matchup we all wanted to see. Flair versus Hogan. We had wanted to see this for years and years and years.
And unfortunately, unless you went to a house show, especially at Madison Square Garden. That's the only place you really saw it.
Up until that point.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is Hogan goes into the Survivor Series. Flair interferes in the match. Then it was the Undertaker match. Undertaker was fighting Hulk Hogan.
Mm-hmm.
Flair interferes, puts the chair in the ring. Undertaker tombstones Hogan, wins the title. They automatically sign the rematch for Tuesday in Texas. Hogan wins. He kind of cheats to win the title. President Jack Tunney decides now the title is going to be vacant. So this is like
Tunney on the take.
Yeah. So now the title is vacant. They decide at the Royal Rumble, whoever wins the Royal Rumble is the WWF champion.
And everybody, including me back then as a fan, is just going, "Oh, well then Hogan's just going to win it for the third time."
Automatic, like we thought that Hogan was going to win.
Boy, were we wrong. Yeah. Now the matchup itself started off pretty good. The first two entries was the British Bulldog, who was fresh off his victory at the Battle Royal for the Royal Albert Hall, Ted DiBiase was number 2 entry, which I didn't really like. You know, even if you're going to put him in, at least keep him in a little longer, but they didn't. DiBiase gets eliminated by the Bulldog. Now here comes Flair at number 3.
Yeah, so you automatically think, oh, Flair's got no shot. There's no chance he's going to win this thing.
How Gorilla put it, whoever has been numbers 1 through 5 has never been there at the end. And, of course, Heenan's like, oh, shut up.
Yeah, as a kid, I'm watching this, and I'm like, there's no way. There's no way Flair's going to win. No way.
We've watched every Rumble up until this point, and those guys that have been in there that started have not been in there at the end. Right. And now we did have 2 substitutions in this card on this Royal Rumble. Marty Jannetty was replaced by Haku, and Brian Knobbs was replaced by Nikolai Volkov.
Right. The Jannetty thing goes back to the Shawn Michaels incident on the
Rockers splitting up. And what's funny is right before this, they interview Michaels, and I love the interview here. He goes, face it, Jannetty, I just saved you 29 other beatings. I mean, not like the one I gave you, but 29 beatings nonetheless. It's classic.
That was a great promo by Shawn. Just going and Shawn had just turned heel, going on his solo run.
First pay-per-view. So, and then, of course, you had Jerry Sags in at number 4, Haku in at 5, and then here comes Shawn Michaels at number 6. He did have 1 elimination in this. Flair actually had 4. The most in this was Sid Justice. He had 5. Yeah. And, of course, he had to be the dominant one in this. Hogan only had 3. That was an off night for him. Santana was in at 7, Barbarian at 8. The ring was really filling up here at this point. Texas Tornado in at 9, Repo Man in at 10. And shockingly enough, he had 2.
Shocking, yeah.
Good old smash. Anyway, 11, Greg the Hammer Valentine comes in. And at this point now, Bobby Heenan's pretty much lost it. I mean, he's just like, everybody that doesn't help Flair is a backstabber. Right. If they do help him, oh, thank you.
He's nervous for Flair. He's like, save your energy. And he's like, oh, this is not Flair. Bobby Heenan makes this. If you guys seen this, Bobby Heenan makes this Royal Rumble.
Yes.
Besides it being the most star-studded Royal Rumble that we've ever seen.
This is his best pay-per-view.
His work on the mic was just tremendous.
Especially with him being the financial advisor to Ric Flair.
Well, because Mr. Perfect became, basically like his manager more or less at that point. The story behind the scenes is that Bobby was tired of running around with Flair. He couldn't keep up with him. The guy wanted to go out drinking every night, so he's like, I can't do this. So he kind of goes into the background more, and Mr. Perfect is by his side.
Since he can't wrestle at this point, then he'll be the executive consultant.
Right, exactly.
So, and then from there, you had Nikolai Volkov come in. Now you have, after that, the Big Boss Man. He had 2 eliminations in this. 14, you almost couldn't recognize the guy. It was actually Hercules. But, I mean, he didn't have the beard. He just has the mustache. His hair is longer. He's put on some weight. He's still wearing the Power and Glory gimmick. Meanwhile, Roma's already gone. So, I don't know what's going on there. 15, you find, now, as the ring had emptied at this point, number 15 crosses into the ring, and it's Roddy Piper.
Yep. And
the place blew up. And I don't blame him, because this feud was great.
With him and Flair,
yes. Stemming back to Survivor Series. It's the only Survivor Series match where you had to disqualify 7 people just to end it because nobody got eliminated. Yeah, and they were like, we got to end this match. So Flair, okay, yeah, you win, whatever. So Piper is going off on him. The next he comes in, and I like Jake the Snake Roberts. Trust me. He's looking at Piper as he's doing. He's like, hey, your business or whatever.
You got to do, yeah.
Now, Monsoon is like, he's saying that he's egging him on to come to him, but meanwhile, he's like, no, just go do your stuff. He's sitting there, and then he jumps Piper from behind, helping Ric Flair. Now, every entrant after this was funny because Jake the Snake Roberts was actually looking down the ramp, hoping that one person would not show up, and that's the Macho Man Randy Savage. Yep. So, the next 2 would come in would be Hacksaw Jim Duggan. He had an elimination. So did Piper, by the way. IRS was number 18. And then, of course, Superfly Jimmy Snuka. Well, I'm surprised he was still around by that point.
Superfly.
So, and now, as you get to 20 to 30, there was a stipulation stemming from Tuesday in Texas that Hogan and The Undertaker would be granted a number between 20 and 30.
Right, them being the former champions, so they gave him that.
I think they screwed The Undertaker over here because they gave him number 20. I mean, come on.
Well, it was between 20 and 30, so I mean.
And they gave him the lowest. It's like giving him number 1 in the Rumble. And Taker only had 1 elimination in this. It was actually a shocker because he did more in the previous Rumble than he did in this one.
Taker should have cleaned house a little bit more, but I guess because he came in late, maybe had he come in earlier.
He spent more time saving Jake the Snake Roberts, going after Ric Flair, which shocked me, and then number 21 was Savage, and Savage spent more time going after The Undertaker. Now, Savage had 2 eliminations in this, one of them being Jake the Snake Roberts. Then, of course, he eliminates himself, but luckily they had not put that stipulation in. It didn't go into effect until after this year.
Right.
That if you go over the top rope on your own, you're out.
Then you're eliminated, yeah.
Because that actually happened in the 98 Rumble with Mil Mascaras. So Savage jumps over the ring. Everybody thinks he's eliminated. He's not. He's going after Jake. Taker comes out. He's helping Jake. So they're going to continue fighting amongst themselves in the ring. So as the ring now starts to fill up again, you get the Berserker in at 22. Oh, Lord. Virgil in at 23, and Virgil had an elimination.
Yeah.
That was a shocker. 24, Colonel Mustafa. 25, Rick Martel, who had an elimination. And as of right now, Rick Martel is the record holder from the previous year at 52 minutes for the Royal Rumble. Obviously, he's not going to hit that record this time. We're coming in so late. 26, here comes the Huckster, Hulk Hogan. And he had 3 eliminations, 2 by himself and then 2 assisted.
The immortal one.
Yeah. 27, the Alligator Man Skinner shows up. Sergeant Slaughter's in at 28. And the 2 biggest guys of the Rumble came in at 29 and 30. Sid Justice, who got a big pop.
A huge pop, yep.
Big pop in this one. And, of course, the Warlord, Cuckoo Kachoo. Or, what was it Bobby Heenan used to say about Bulldog? I used to say about Warlord. $1 million body, 10-cent mind.
10-cent mind, yep.
And like I said, Justice had 5 eliminations in this. And so now, as the ring starts clearing away, you know, Undertaker got eliminated by Hogan, naturally. The final 4 in this one was, and if you blinked, you missed it because then Savage was just about gone at that point. Because he got his clock cleaned in this one.
Yeah.
It came down to Hogan, Flair, Justice, and Savage, which I was actually hoping that, you know, Hogan and Savage just once, just belt on one another. Why not? For good old times. Savage gets eliminated by Flair. Flair took him out. Now we're down to the final 3. So I love how Sid's just sitting there, just watching them.
Watching Flair and Hogan
go at it. Hogan can't get Flair out at the point, so Sid's like, I got this. Hold my beer. Hogan goes out. Everybody cheered.
The roof blew off the place.
Exactly.
Yeah. Just because Sid was a babyface, Sid was over. And it was at that point, you know, Hulkamania was kind of, you know, dying down. The fans wanted something new. And they liked Sid. And the roof blew off the place. And
you know, think about it. This stems from SummerSlam now when Sid was the special guest referee. Mm-hmm. Hogan comes in the ring, just, here, hold my belt, big boy. And then calls him out later to pose with him. You know, so now if he's a friend of Hogan, you know he's going to turn on him.
Hey, Hogan does
the crybaby nonsense like he did in '89.
Well, how about when Sid looks at him and said, "Every man for himself, big boy." A great line.
And if I was Sid, I'd kind of move away from the ring, from the rope there, because if anybody knows Hogan, you know he's going to cheat to get you out. And what does he do? He grabs Sid's hand, and Flair and Hogan get the assist with each other on this one.
Right.
Sid comes out, Ric Flair's winning the WWE title and the Royal Rumble.
Yeah, and this was heavily edited, too, on the original pay-per-view broadcast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can still hear the boos for Hogan. You can still hear them.
Oh, yeah.
But they were a lot louder.
It was bigger. If anybody watched this live
and
or
they
had
cheered
the original,
when Sid threw out Hogan, they cheered. And then when Hogan did that by pulling him, they booed. And then Flair's the champion, you know, which was great for Flair, but then it's like it becomes somewhat overshadowed to a degree with the Hogan and Sid thing in the ring.
Yeah, because Jack Tunney can't give him the belt. He can't present the title to him in the ring because you got these 2 egomaniacs, mainly Hogan's.
And Sid's not backing down either. Sid's toe-to-toe with him.
Sid don't care.
Yeah, Sid doesn't care. And the thing is, Sid is a babyface too, and they were cheering.
But he was coming off as the heel.
Right,
now.
Hogan pulled the heel move.
But yet Sid's the one acting like the heel.
Right, and there's a story true. I don't know how much of it is true. I tend to believe some of this is true. There's a famous story that backstage Hogan was yelling at Vince McMahon, because this is according to Sid. Hogan was yelling at Vince McMahon because he felt like Vince set him up to get booed because he didn't know that if he had pulled Sid out like that the fans were going to turn on him. So he's like, you're killing my character, whatever. And supposedly, this is the part I don't believe. Sid said, oh, at that point, I was like, I told Vince I can't work here. There's a grown man here. He's crying over this, and I can't deal with this. And Vince said, oh, just get me to WrestleMania, and then you can leave.
Well, and then shortly after the European tour, he did.
Yeah. So I mean,
who knows if he left for that reason or the fact that the FBI were knocking on the door.
But either way, I mean, in that booking, they shouldn't have done. If they were trying to keep Hogan a babyface that night, that was the wrong move to do because Sid was over. Sid was a babyface at the time. Hogan just came off looking like a heel.
Yeah.
Thankfully for Flair, he's allowed to cut a great promo backstage. He's reunited with Bobby Heenan. Perfect is there.
How about before that? With what Sid told him right before they cut out.
Oh yeah.
And I quote, "I'll kill you."
That was great, and it cuts.
And he shouted it from the rampway. I'll kill you. And I'm like, okay, roid rage.
I think Sid kind of went into business for himself too, but I don't mind.
No, I don't, because it was good.
Right, it was great stuff. But yeah, then we get that great that promo
from Flair. Yeah,
with a tear in my eye. It's a great promo. He kind of takes a shot at WCW/NWA.
Good.
This is the only. What do you say? I'm paraphrasing here. So this is the only belt that matters. Or
yes,
something like
this is the top prize in the game.
Yeah. So it was a great speech.
And then you got Mean Gene to put that cigarette out.
Yeah, Mean Gene's yelling.
Somebody behind the cameras.
He's yelling at some random guy that was like, "Put that cigarette out." It was great stuff. But overall, I mean, this is my favorite Royal Rumble.
This is the best. I think it's one of the best ever.
I think it's the best one. I think it's the best Rumble.
If you had Warrior in this Rumble, regardless in the match or the Rumble, you have the most legit roster you had. And we've said this before in 1992. Yeah. What they started with was nowhere near what they finished with that year. And there was a lot of stuff going on.
There was a lot of problems towards the end. But not only was this the most star-studded, you had the most star-studded Royal Rumble and the highest stakes. It was for the belt.
The first time ever it was done.
So, I mean, overall,
wouldn't be done again until 2016.
Yeah.
But you had a champion in that one.
Right. It's a
little different. This wasn't for a vacated title. Yeah. So the idea of this was pretty good. And I think it came out with the right winner, Flair.
And they executed, yeah. Flair deserved it. Apparently, so there's a note. Flair, according to him, said he didn't even know he was going to win the title until that day.
I don't know about
that. Jake told him that day.
No,
I don't know.
Jake.
That Jake told him, you're going to win the title. He's like, what? What are you talking about? And then it's confirmed. But this is according to Rick. It's not according to Jake. If this was Jake's story,
Jake's story, I'd be like, no.
Right. No, but according to Rick,
well, that's possible that they kept it.
It's
from
possible
everybody.
they kept it from everybody to the last.
Because Vince likes to change his idea, his mind at the last minute,
and it was a good surprise. We're not going to get too much into it. We've covered it in all the other episodes. You would have thought that this was going to lead to Hulk Hogan versus Ric Flair at WrestleMania, and at one point it was the match is announced after this.
They had the press conference.
Hogan, there's a press conference. Hogan is named the #1 contender.
Sid thinks it's going to be him,
Sid.
Which he has an argument because he was the final person in the ring. So technically, yes, I could see where he's coming from.
Right, absolutely.
But at the same time, you look at what's going on in the ring after the Rumble's over, and then you're like, okay, if we're leaning towards Hogan and Flair, what are we doing here?
Right.
So it was like it was like you didn't know what to expect.
Absolutely. So it wasn't that main event was never to be. Actually, well, in WCW it happens, but you get my point.
But in WWE, nobody will ever tell you why we didn't get it.
Yeah. But overall, great pay-per-view and great Royal Rumble.
Yes, it was, definitely.
All right, so you guys make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe, and we'll see you guys soon.
Take care.